Haley Hamilton always believed her life began with a neatly typed adoption certificate and a childhood folded into safe suburban routines. Yet, when she pried open the rusted lockbox hidden behind her late grandmother's dresser and saw Vanessa Calloway McBride's name emblazoned on a sealed birth record, the illusion imploded like glass under a sledgehammer. 20 years of family photograph Christmas mornings, graduation day, Bill tucking her into backseat road trip naps rewound in her mind. Every memory now undercut by the truth that the woman who hugged her at PTA meetings was not simply her godmother, but her biological mother. A fact buried to guard the Sterling McBride brand from whispers of an affair. Haley's pulse thrashed as she confronted Vanessa in the paneled study where antique portraits of McBride patriarchs glowered down. Vanessa tried to keep her tone composed, yet her mascara betrayed tremors when she admitted that at 19 she birthed Haley during a Paris sabbatical, shipped the infant to a discreet American foster agency, then married media mogul Bill Hamilton to cement a facade of impeccable pedigree. She insisted love drove the secrecy. I wanted you free from scandal's shadow, but the confession detonated beneath Haley's ribs. Love that stifles oxygen is still suffocation. Within hours, Haley packed her Cornell transcripts, slammed the wrought iron gate, and drove to a downtown attorney. She demanded a public civil suit, intentional infliction of emotional distress, lifelong fraud, the maximum punitive payout. Headlines erupted. Heiress sues socialite mother in bloodline bombshell. Bill Hamilton found himself straddling two collapsing worlds. As Vanessa's husband, he'd co-authored the cover-up, consoling her through night terrors that paparazzi might sniff too close. Yet Bill was also Haley's legal father. He taught her to parallel park on rain-slick streets and slipped blank checks into her dorm mailbox. Now his daughter's summons named him as co-defendant. At dawn, he shuffled between Haley's rented loft and Vanessa's penthouse, pleading with each to reconsider. Haley's glare stayed glacial. You lied daily. Vanessa's reply was brittle porcelain. I lied to protect. Each stance calcified, leaving Bill isolated in a corridor of echoing accusations. Amid the domestic wreckage, Andre Leclerc, a former McBride publicist, recently fired for expenses, fraud-smelled opportunity. Andre harbored volcanic resentment toward the dynasty that cast him out, and Haley's suit supplied perfect accelerant. He contacted tabloid titan Sylvia Crane, trading decades of McBride skeletons for prime column inches. With ruthless precision, he spun Haley's personal anguish into a broader narrative of McBride hypocrisy, dubbing it gatekeepers of deceit. Every morning new exposes surfaced. Tax shelters in Monaco, hush money to silent staff, doctored philanthropy metrics. Andre orchestrated viral hashtags, leaked sealed deposition snippets, even doctored footage of Vanessa declining questions outside a children's hospital to suggest callousness. Public sentiment, once dazzled by the family's glitzy galas, flipped overnight into fury. The first preliminary hearing became a Roman arena. Haley, jaw squared, testified that discovering her origins had fractured her mental health, sending her into panic spirals and nightly vomiting. Vanessa's attorneys countered with psychiatric evaluations portraying Haley as emotionally volatile, predisposed to dramatic reactions. But the smear backfired when Andre leaked internal memos revealing the legal team's intention to exploit recent panic attack incidents. Twitter exploded with Team Haley. Bill took the stand, voice gravel. He admitted forging the adoption papers under duress, tears streaking his cheeks. Yet when pressed on why he never confessed, his answer, loyalty to my wife outran honesty to my daughter, rang hollow. The judge ordered mediation, but kept trial set for November. In mediation, Haley demanded a televised apology and relinquishment of controlling shares in McBride Global Media to an independent trust benefiting abandoned children. Vanessa balked. McBride board members, fearing shareholder revolt, urged compromise, but Vanessa's pride clashed with maternal guilt in a volatile brew that refused dilution. Nights in the penthouse grew silent. Bill slept in the study. Vanessa roamed hallways in silk robes, haunted by phantom lullabies from Paris clinics. Meanwhile, Andre fueled infernos. He fed Crane surveillance stills of board members sneaking into crisis strategy sessions, framing them as conspiratorial cabals. Stock prices nosedived. October ushered subpoenas and strategy leaks. Hailey's lawyers unearthed old Paris hospital logs showing Vanessa's mother bribed officials to erase birth records, confirming premeditated concealment. They calculated damages at $40 million plus punitive. Vanessa's team pivoted, offering private settlement with no admission of wrongdoing. But Hailey, galvanized by thousands of strangers cheering her defiance, refused hush money. She launched a social initiative called Cheroots, live streaming her daily prep and exposing tactics wealthy families wield to mutate lineage truths. Her follower count spiked, donations poured. Talk show producers begged for exclusives she strategically timed before key court dates to weaponize public opinion. Bill's health deteriorated under the siege. Hypertension spiked, and during a board meeting he collapsed, clutching his chest. The ambulance read etched new fault lines. Hailey arrived first, pressing trembling lips to his knuckles. Vanessa arrived minutes later, security in tow, barred by Hailey from the ICU. Outside, cameras captured Vanessa shaking behind sunglasses as protesters chanted "Tell the truth." Andre distributed edited clips implying crocodile tears, overlaying them with a chilling soundtrack that went viral on TikTok. Courtroom battles intensified. Vanessa's counsel attempted to dismiss on statute of limitations grounds, arguing Hailey turned 21 the previous month. Yet Hailey's team invoked delayed discovery doctrine, citing concealed identity. The judge sided with Hailey, setting precedent that rocked legal blogs. Andre capitalized by hosting a Clubhouse forum with ex-McBride employees who painted Vanessa as a Machiavellian perfectionist who would sterilize truth if it threatened brand. Harmony. Their testimonies, though unverifiable, saturated online consciousness until fiction and fact entwined beyond separation. By early November, shareholders triggered an emergency vote to push Vanessa off the board to salvage valuation. Bill, still recovering, held proxy power. His decision would tip scales. Vanessa asked for one chance to address the floor. Clad in simple gray, she confessed the hidden birth, apologized to her daughter and shareholders, and declared her intention to step down voluntarily upon resolution of family matters. The humility stunned audiences, causing a brief surge of sympathy. Hailey watched live from a courtroom lounge, conflicting emotions warring behind her eyes. Andre scrambled to neutralize the empathy spike, releasing audio of Vanessa at 19 telling a confidant, "I'd burn anyone who tarnished my name." The audio's authenticity was dubious, but the timing reignited outrage. Trial day arrived wearing icy sleet. Cameras lined courthouse steps like vultures. Inside, Vanessa took the witness stand, voice trembling as she recounted youthful fear and rigid societal expectations that convinced her surrendering Hailey was mercy. Cross-examination skewered her on inconsistencies. If mercy motivated, why not reveal truth when Hailey turned 18? Vanessa's voice fractured. "I was afraid she'd hate me." Hailey's eyes shimmered, but she held her posture. Then came Andre's masterstroke, delivered to prosecution a cache of internal McBride emails that seemed to outline a contingency to retaliate against Hailey's mental health disclosures. Prosecutors used them to paint a picture of ongoing emotional abuse. Vanessa's lawyers objected on authenticity grounds, but the damage landed in the jury's subconscious. Closing arguments crackled with raw electricity. Hailey's attorney likened Vanessa to the monarchy of mirrors, reflective glamour hiding festering wounds. Vanessa's defense framed the case as a tragic misunderstanding exploited by outside saboteurs. Jury deliberations stretched 26 hours before returning a verdict. Vanessa liable for willful concealment and emotional distress, ordered to pay $18 million and issue a public apology broadcast on McBride Networks. Bill was found liable only for negligent misrepresentation, fined $1 million with probationary oversight. The apology aired prime time. Vanessa sat alone beneath studio lights, mascara abandoned, voice steady yet soaked in remorse. "Hailey, I wronged you from your first breath. I let fear trump love. I'm sorry." 15 million viewers watched mother and daughter hold eye contact through cameras in a fragile, wordless bridge across decades of silence. Corporate sponsors issued cautious support. Stock tickers nudged upward. Yet Andre's vendetta refused to die. He released doctored bank records implying Vanessa siphoned disaster relief funds years earlier. Investigations cleared her, but residual doubt lingered, halting her attempts at quiet redemption. Haley, sensing fatigue in the digital mob, publicly severed ties with Andre. Denouncing outsiders exploiting private pain for clicks, the pivot diminished his platform. Crane's newspaper distanced itself, sponsors evaporated. Andre retreated into obscurity, his coup incomplete. Reconstruction began in tentative steps. Haley elected to attend family therapy with Bill. She demanded Vanessa fund scholarships for adoptees instead of writing checks to her directly. Vanessa complied without negotiation. Over months, dinners resumed first as formal mediations, then as cautious gatherings where Haley quizzed Vanessa about Paris, about the day she first held her daughter, about the regret that stalked her all these years. Answers came haltingly, but honestly. One June evening, Bill grilled salmon on the terrace while mother and daughter planted peonies beneath city haze. Paparazzi lurked but found no scandal in quiet healing. McBride Global, now under interim stewardship, adopted sweeping transparency policies, inviting third-party auditors to inspect philanthropic arms. The reforms, ironically, boosted brand trust beyond pre-scandal levels, proving catastrophe concede renewal. Haley declined offers to join the board but agreed to consult on ethical governance, her condition being that any whistleblower program remain independently funded. Vanessa ceded control, content to focus on foundation work championing abandoned infants across 3 continents. On the anniversary of the verdict, Haley walked onto the stage of the annual True Roots Summit in a crimson suit echoing the color of her sealed birth record. She addressed an audience of thousands and livestream viewers worldwide, recounting her odyssey from curated lies to chosen truth. She thanked the crowd for support, cautioned against digital vigilantism, and ended with a line that summed the saga: "Blood makes us related. Courage makes us family." Backstage, Vanessa waited, bouquet in trembling hands, tears marking every syllable of pride. Bill captured the moment on his phone, the image later framed in their hallway, evidence that honesty, though born in chaos, can forge a legacy stronger than any gilded facade. Martin Richardson had been absent from Dominion Heights for barely 6 months. Yet the night he stepped out of the chauffeured Mercedes onto the marble apron of the Helix Foundation ballroom, he carried in his breast pocket a thin envelope that could combust the entire city-state of alliances his late father spent 40 years engineering. The envelope held the final codicil to Frederick Richardson's will and notarized addendum, executed 3 weeks before the magnate's stroke. That bypassed the expected corporate line of succession and bestowed full controlling interest in Richardson Global to Naomi Castillo Richardson. The housekeeper turned confidant everyone assumed was merely the kindly widow Frederick had sponsored through business school. With the inked signatures trembling against his ribcage, Martin slid through the revolving doors into a carnival of chandeliers and velvet drapes where 2,000 guests drifted in feathered masks and whispered speculation about the future of the empire. He had rehearsed exactly how the handoff would unfold. He would find Naomi at midnight, ease the envelope into her clutch, and watch the kingdom realign around the one person his father believed could steer it past the coming storms. What Martin did not know, what no one knew, was that Ashley Morgenthau, woman in the midnight blue domino mask gliding along the upper balcony, was not the marketing consultant her invitation claimed, but a deep cover investigator hired by the Department of Financial Integrity to expose the web of offshore fronts Richardson Global used to bankroll political favors. Ashley's months of surveillance had convinced her that if Naomi took the reins, the paper trail she hunted would vanish forever. So she designed a single brutal contingency: plunge the gala into darkness, force every mask off, yoke the chaos to her objective. She had already bribed a maintenance technician, pre-programmed the breaker override, and cleared an escape route through the catering corridor. All she needed was the right moment. 9:47, Martin circulated through clusters of hedge fund royalty, nodding at compliments about his tailored carbon fiber tax while tracking Naomi's position near the string quartet. The air smelled of damask roses and discreet ambition, each conversation a chess opening. Across the ballroom, Naomi, silver mask beaded with onyx, posture upright despite nervous threatened to discuss philanthropic scholarships while decoding Martin's gestures. She knew he carried something. They had spoken on encrypted calls since Frederick's passing, but neither trusted wireless signals enough to mention specifics. Naomi's heart hammered with the promise and terror of sudden power. On the mezzanine, Ashley flicked her wrist to verify the countdown on the discreet timer taped inside her sleeve. 13 minutes until the lights died. Her superiors demanded incontrovertible proof tonight before the board ratified any successor. She scanned for Martin, then for the lanky man from private security whose jacket bulged with a holstered Walther. She had traced his background to a mercenary outfit and rig a potential spark in the tinderbox she intended to ignite. 11 minutes. Martin reached the champagne bar, palms sweating. He rehearsed his father's final words to show them strength by surrendering what was never ours, son, and steadied his breathing. When the cellist slid into a slow aria Naomi favored, Martin took that as his cue. He threaded through swirling gowns, stopped 2 paces from Naomi, touched her gloved elbow, and whispered, "Walk with me to the conservatory." She almost smiled then overhead. The grand clock's mechanical chime struck 10 and every crystal sconce flashed once before blacking out like extinguished galaxies. Gasps rippled. Music screeched into silence. Emergency strobes failed. Ashley's technician saw to that, leaving total dark broken only by cell phones glowing like fireflies. In the sudden hush, Ashley's amplified voice cut through. Masks off. No more illusions. Panic. Fabric rustled. Guests clawed at velvet ties. Security teams fumbled for flashlights. Naomi instinctively reached for Martin's hand but found only air. Voices surged. Someone screamed. Martin, trying to orient himself, pivoted toward a faint exit sign, clutching the envelope. In that same instant, the mercenary bodyguard yanked his Walther free, assuming a coup or robbery. Ashley, descending the marble staircase, glimpsed the gun barrel catching strapping exit light and yelled, "Weapon!" The shout ricocheted through adrenaline-soaked minds. A second guard misread it, drew his own sidearm. The first guard's trigger jerked. The single shot cracked like shattering universes, subsuming every other sound. Lights snapped back under Ashley's secondary program precisely then, bleaching the ballroom in harsh white that froze the scene into a tableau of horror. Guests half unmasked. Glitter floating in stalled air, Naomi's hand clapped over her mouth, and Martin Frederick's air for all of 10 heartbeats lumping forward. Scarlet blooming on his shirt where the bullet had pierced the envelope and plowed into his chest. Paper confetti of the codicil drifted around him like burned snow. He collapsed at Naomi's feet. She dropped to her knees, tearing off gloves to staunch the wound, sobbing his name. Ashley, thunderstruck by the magnitude of unintended collateral, still triggered the flash drive broadcast to project Richardson Shell Company ledgers onto every ballroom wall, fulfilling her mission even as paramedics barreled through broken champagne flutes. Sirens wailed outside. Naomi cradled Martin's head, whispering frantic assurances nobody believed. He tried to speak, lips flecked with blood. Only one phrase emerged, gave her everything. Then his gaze fixed past chandeliers into nothingness. Police locked down exits, collected weapons, escorted Ashley to a windowless room where she surrendered her badge and endured 3 hours of interrogation. No charge stuck. She had planned power loss, not gunfire. The stray bullet became the headline here slain in masquerade bloodbath while video loops of Richardson ledgers triggered overnight raids on Caribbean subsidiaries. By dawn, the board's emergency committee met under grim fluorescent light. Naomi, still in blood-stained gown, presented the tattered codicil sealed in an evidence bag. Forensics confirmed Frederick's signature, and despite crisis management consultants advising delay, the directors voted unanimously. The empire would pass to Naomi in accordance with the dead patriarch's explicit wish and his son's dying breath. Outside, journalists shouted theories. Protesters waved placards accusing corporate murder. Candles formed impromptu vigils where velvet ropes once stood. Naomi's first act as CEO was to announce full cooperation with financial investigators, pledging transparency Frederick never dared. Her second was private. She visited the morgue, brushed hair from Martin's brow, and promised the legacy they shared would not drown in scandal. Across town, Ashley filed a report detailing unintended casualty, recommending internal review of field agent impulsivity. She wondered whether justice achieved through catastrophe could ever feel clean. The guard who fired the shot faced manslaughter charges, yet his testimony blamed the chaos fomented by a voice in the dark. Lawyers would feast for years. But in the immediate aftermath, stock markets fluttered and steadied. Employees watched live streams of Naomi dismantling decades-old secrecy, and on the cracked marble where Martin fell. Crimson seams were scrubbed clean though ballroom staff swore faint stains reappeared each new moon, like memory insisting on permanence. By the time the next gala season approached, Dominion Heights society trembled at mailed invitations embossed with Naomi's new crest, an open eye over an unfurled scroll. The symbolism was clear. Nothing hidden survives the light. Guests arrived maskless. The chandeliers kept their glow. And somewhere beyond the velvet ropes, a lone investigator in civilian clothes watched from a parked sedan, wondering whether truth had finally found its steward or whether every empire merely trades one shroud for another.